PFT Media.
Fucking shoot some gold.
Hey, Trey. You ready to do a bunch of unpaid labor for us?
Oh man,
What's that painting behind you? It's really cool.
My aunt, she made this. It's like I think it's Paul. No, not Paul. It's one of the disciples holding the feet of Jesus, and she did it in like, I guess, classic, impressionist, abstract, and then cubist.
That's
so
Yeah, I was
cool.
gonna say at least one of them's Cubist.
yeah,
That
she's
is pretty fucking
she's
cool,
an
man.
artist. She's married to a brain surgeon, so she can be
That's
an
why
artist.
she's an artist.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, you posted a picture today that was like super creepy. Was that a real lady in that picture, or was that a statue?
No, it was a statue. Yeah, it's a
All
statue at this mountain we were at.
That was
Yeah.
a cool ass picture, man.
Nice.
Thanks.
Welcome to Radicalizing Rednecks with a special Juneteenth episode, I guess, or a special about it, I guess. I don't know how to necessarily describe it.
It's the Honky's Guide to Juneteenth.
There you go. And
Yeah!
we're having a white man explain it because he did a bunch of work on it. And if you're mad about that, we didn't pay him, so you know.
And his voice and his accent is like smooth as
You know what I mean?
butter. So like,
basically, you know, if you're mad about that, a white guy was telling us this, we made a white guy research this for free and tell it to y'all for free. So I mean, really,
It's even worse than sharecropping, what y'all did. So
He'll get his freedom later.
basically, I mean, we'll eventually let him know he was free.
speaking of which, so Juneteenth is celebrated on June the 13th. It was in 1865 in Galveston, and Gordon Granger was a Union general in the Civil War, and he had ridden, you know, just like Sherman's march from the north to the south. He had ridden into Galveston, Texas, where they were not informed at all that the 1863 Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. So he issues General Order Number 3, which I've got right here. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and property, personal rights and rights of property between the former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between an employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not allow to collect at military posts, and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. So the whole, it's so nice up until like one sentence or two sentences at the end there. It's like, oh, you guys are free, and then you're employees.
Not to defend the white man, but white men weren't allowed to just be idle either, pretty much. If you were poor, if you were rich, it basically was, hey, you're part of the workers now, fucker.
Yeah.
That's literally pretty much what that reads. It's like, so you're part of the workers now, so they have to pay you, but also they don't have to treat you good.
They don't owe you shit else now.
It's basically letting you know, in a way, but I'm not black, but it almost feels better they put that little part in there, because it really does feel like equal treatment, you know. Unfortunately, Reconstruction, this is basically the high watermark Reconstruction of actual equality in this fucking country.
And that's really the problem where it goes from here is so, you know, they have this order issued, and then a year, you know, they have, I'm going to put, this is the sunny part. We're going to put the sunny part in here. In 1866, January 1st, there was a celebration called by the Reedy Chapel, what was at that time called the Negro Church. The colored people of Galveston have celebrated their emancipation from slavery yesterday by procession. Notwithstanding the storm, some 800 or 1,000 men, women, and children took part in the demonstration. The procession was orderly and credible to those participating in it. A meeting was held at the colored church on Broadway, at which address they were delivered by a number of speakers, among whom was General Gregory, Assistant Commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau. We'll talk about the Freedmen's Bureau. The general gave them a great deal of good, plain advice, which they, if they follow, will renown to their well-being and prosperity. The Proclamation of President Lincoln was read, and the singing of John's brown body is moldering in the ground was also sung.
Nice.
And And anyways, it goes on to say then, and they weren't bad. There was no improper conduct. So it's like they assume everybody's gonna like riot or do stupid stuff. It's like the worst thing about all this. Every time you read these old articles, it's like, oh, and the black folks, they were real kindly and they didn't break anything. It's like, why do you have to say that?
Well, you know, the Irish too.
Yeah. Well,
You know, again,
They were drunk.
yeah,
and
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
But the fun part about it is it wasn't actually made a holiday in Texas until January 2nd, 1980, 114 years after that celebration. So,
And Galveston's been having a parade every year for what? However
Since
many long
then,
years
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so it went down. The thing is you see from the early 1900s down through like the 60s, it gets real bad because, you know, there's the Klan, there's a lot of hate. I mean, people don't underestimate the fact that Texas and Louisiana, all these places, like the early 1900s was probably as worse a time to be a person of color than it was in the time of slavery, almost.
Well, I mean, in time of slavery, they at least considered you valuable property.
Yeah.
You know,
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
I know that was fucked up to hear, but I mean, literally, like, it's kind of the difference between treating you like a Corolla that runs and a Corolla that's been in the yard for a while. Like, basically, they said, oh, well, when you used to work for me, we had to treat you this way, but you haven't worked for me so long. Like, the early 1900s, that's the pendulum swing of Reconstruction all the way. The pendulum swings all the way.
That's when you see all the statues being put up. I mean, it starts from like the 1920s all the way up to the 50s. And I mean, you have Tulsa Massacre and all that.
And what people don't remember or don't think about is the 1920s people were the 50-year-olds from the Civil War.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So imagine like the 50-year-olds now of 9/11 people that was like 20 when 9/11 happened. A lot of them are super patriotic, right?
Yeah.
Super all about 9/11. So the reason why there's a bunch of Confederate fucking statues, like when we read in the last episode, the Daughters of Confederacy thing, that's because that's when they start turning 40 and 50 and they're getting to be community leaders and civic leaders and shit. They're the children of Reconstruction. They're the people that saw federal troops come, and then a lot of times black federal troops would occupy places. You know what I mean? Like, it was a direct response. Like, this country is fucking racist as fuck. And the South lost the war, but they won Reconstruction.
Oh, yeah.
And so basically what happens after this General Order number 3 is issued, it comes with all these caveats. So there's all persons formerly enslaved or enjoined to remain with their former masters under such contracts as may be made at the present time. And we learn that those contracts are just like, for the most part, people are illiterate. They're just signing whatever. And it's literally like the worst thing. It's like you have to hand over half of your crop or you're going to get kicked off. And if there's a famine, that's not the owner's fault, that's your fault. Those kind of things end up happening.
My half comes first type shit.
Exactly.
No matter what grew, my half grew first every time.
And reinvented serfdom.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I mean,
quite perfectly. Literally.
But then that's no persons formerly slaves will be permitted to travel on public thoroughfares without passes or permits from their employers or congregate in buildings or camps at or adjacent to any military post in town. And they won't be allowed to subsist in idleness. And to
give a little context to that part about the military camp thing, during the war, you'd have Union camps would have freed black folks get around it because they wouldn't get attacked by Confederate raiders, Confederate copperheads, the bushwhackers, the fucking, you know what I mean?
A lot of those like cowboy bandits that you hear about, like the Old West, those are just Confederates that never stopped fighting the war.
Yeah, those are former Confederate cavalrymen from fucking, because the Confederates had a huge cavalry corps of the third and second sons of rich dudes who had horses and grew up riding horses and shit. And when their plantations were burned down by the Union, they still had horses, so now they're horse bandits.
Yeah, and they have guns, and they have all the the means to support themselves as bandits and all that. And basically, they do make a couple of for widows, for women of note in the community, they're allowed to just run their households and not given rent, but that's applied basically on the whims of whatever judge. And anyways, it just ends up coming to William Richardson is this South Carolina publisher of the Galveston Daily News, and he goes on to say, Granger and Provost Marshal General are both practical men and not theorists. They look upon emancipation not as freeing the Negro from all obligation to labor, nor for any human being, white or black, enjoys such a freedom. Everybody's got to toil, in their words, but simply changing the obligation to work without stipulated wages to the work for obligated wages. And it's certainly sensible and a practical view of the subject, because it's natural that the Negro should suppose that the privilege of living in idleness was the most essential tribute to his freedom. Like, they assume, and it's the most corrosive thing, they assume the hardest working people in their society, the people who lay down their lives on a daily basis, dying of heat stroke and whippings and everything, those are the lazy people. Not the guy sitting sipping tea on the friggin' front porch. No, the idle people are the ones that are slaving away and literally slaving away.
Not the planter class that has the balls.
Yeah,
those balls are real. Those are real things that happen. And think about the resources required to put on a debutante ball before there was the goddamn internet and before there was fucking trucks and modern shipping and shit. That's how much resources put in that shit. Like when a poor person, when you could be considered poor back then, like you might not eat, you could starve to death, just in general. Like starving to death wasn't a thing that wasn't an idle threat for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have balls, debutante balls. It boggles mind. But this ties into Frederick Douglass talking about we need to end wage slavery.
Yeah.
Because you hear it, like I said, they just, now you got to work. You still got to work, but now you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
You know? Not
so
a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay,
And
so
again,
the William Richardson guy, and this is just the worst part of it that just like really eats at me whenever I read it. He's like, it follows that the South can only be cultivated by those of tropical extraction whose color fits them to stand and the enervating tendencies of hot climates, directed by intelligent white natives of the South, whose education qualified him for the business of planting, and whose knowledge of the particular habits and disposition of the dusky races fits him to direct their labors to beneficial results. It's the most scummy bullshit, and it's just like, this is what the elite of their society, like this guy is like this well-educated man, and it's probably somebody that people sit around and like, that's a guy we got to listen to. And he is a scumbag who is literally just making excuses for his race. It's phrenology, basically, but with skin tone.
In his defense, sunscreen hadn't been invented yet.
It had not.
I didn't think Sean said that.
Hey, but it is the truth though. Sunscreen had not been invented, which is, I don't know how the fuck the white man ever thought he was a superior race in fucking South. I mean, I don't know how the fuck we ever thought that the sun was not our enemy and we shouldn't have been here.
move to Wisconsin with all the other ones.
Yeah, going this far south, I don't know why the fuck they ever thought they should have been here.
Because they had houses.
Melanoma gives you power. Yeah. Exactly.
Didn't Nick Cannon say that?
Probably.
He did.
Back to the actual awful history.
Okay, and so this is the last bit. Okay, and this comes from I gotta really recommend these guys. It's called emergingcivilwar.com. Very good website, at least for this information. It was very valuable to me because this is kind of the concluding of the historical period. Basically, they say that we find the conditions written into the orders that were supposed to bring freedom for the enslaved also set the tone for the non-compliance with the spirit of the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. Initial restrictive emancipation in Galveston itself limited the first part of General Granger's Order Number 3. Therefore, we acknowledge that and celebrate Juneteenth as a holiday that extended freedom to more Americans. We find strict qualifiers on that freedom set immediately thereafter in the city where it occurred. These seeds would go on to develop into larger systematic oppression and the effects we still find impacting our country 155 years after the end of the Civil War. And it really is. We're looking at this is the history. This is what it's led up to. The prison industrial complex, the idea of welfare queens, all these things, the roots are here. The roots are in the early Reconstruction. We have yet to fight the root of that, in my opinion.
Well, because at first Reconstruction's going pretty good for people of color. At first, it's not going bad.
No.
You know, you look at the history of most black elected officials in the United States, it's almost all during Reconstruction when federal troops occupy places, right?
No,
and
absolutely.
That's how you end up with the compromise. Who was it that they compromised with that led to the withdrawal of federal troops? What president was that? Did the deal was struck or whatever?
It was Johnson, wasn't it?
I think it was Johnson, yeah. I think it might have been Johnson. In fact, it might have been Grover, goddamn Cleveland.
Never
where
they named Grover.
Finally took them out. I didn't realize. I mean, that's one of the things. Like as a Southerner, I was never taught how long Union troops occupied the South.
Well,
that seems like a very yeah, absolutely.
They had to because the planter class would fucking kill black people, would fucking terrorize black towns. You had the White Knight Riders, you had the first Klan, which is all the reason why the Klan wore them white robes is because they're ghosts of Confederate war dead. That's why they wear the white robes, y'all. That's where that comes from. So you know, and we turn into this goofy thing because we do this with a lot of threats in this country. We turn them into this joke, right? And we turn it. We do this Saturday Night Live thing where they have the goddamn Trump on, or it's Jimmy Fallon touching his hair or whatever. You know, we turn the shit into a joke because we think humor stops anything.
Yeah.
Because the bosses want us to think making fun of it and nullifies it, right?
Well, it's like what the right uses humor the way it does. It's like, oh, we're just making jokes about ovens and camps, you know, and it takes away its effect and the honest disgust we should feel towards it.
If humor stopped anything, right? Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator would have stopped Hitler, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Charlie
He would have died right there.
Was the funniest man that ever was, or whatever at the time and shit, and was the biggest comedy star there ever was. Made a fucking talkie film. It would have destroyed it, but it doesn't, y'all. So when they made the Klan their robes and shit, if they're wearing bath sheets at night, no, they're dressing up as the dead. They're pretending to be fucking specters and haunting people because they're telling you that you may have won, but our ghosts will always haunt you.
Yes,
that's the fucking scariest of it. You know, it's not, the real ghost in this country and shit isn't the shit they have in The Conjuring. It's the ghost of Reconstruction.
Yeah.
And it's never went away, and it's affected every part of America. It's the reason why Oregon had its constitution that said you couldn't be black and live there. It was a direct response to that. You see, in order number 3, the fucking first thing is you're not allowed to travel without it because they didn't want them to move from anywhere. It's not that the North was better about race. They didn't want black people to move up there.
They explicitly, like, that's what caused the second Great Migration was they go up there for these industrial jobs and then they come back because, like, the union, and what's sad is it's union members in these shops saying we don't want to be in the union with black people, and they come right back to the South in the 70s.
And a lot of that with the union thing, the unions that didn't let black people in wouldn't be as oppressed as hard as the ones that did.
Yeah.
So you come into, and this is something that people in history, just in America, they talk about, well, how come something didn't win? Like how come communism didn't get popular in America? Well, because it was illegal to be a goddamn communist in place.
Yeah.
You know, how come social, how come these things? Well, because if you were in a union with black people, you might get fucking killed.
Yeah.
The local sheriff and shit, like law enforcement, didn't get professionalized for a long time. Right. And then when they got professionalized, that doesn't make it better necessarily, but it made it better in some ways. Because at least then, like, it wasn't, I mean, extrajudicial killings were just a thing. Like,
yeah, they weren't, it wasn't something that was odd. Occurrence. It happened. Yeah. It happened on a regular basis.
That's, it just happened. Like, it would not be surprised. It didn't matter why.
So after, Well, in 1865, March 3rd, 1865, there's a group called the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, and they actually do a lot of good. So you'll see, like, they'll come in and make sure that schools are established, healthcare is established.
Real quick to the last episode, people that were listening. Remember how that textbook listed refugees? Refugees in this case are white people that have been displaced by the war.
Yes.
Black people are freedmen on it.
Yes. So still separated.
Even in the goddamn government's response to it, they're still looking out for white people first because it's the bureaus of refugees and freedmen.
So, anyways,
refugees
don't come. God, don't come to the north, right, Shan?
No, literally, they did do that. History repeats itself. They did. Don't come.
Yeah. And so they do good stuff. They get food, medical care, education, but and what's really sad about it is there's this like proclamation set forth by Sherman in the spring of 1865. He controlled the Freedmen's Bureau controlled 900,000 acres of government land, enough for nearly 23,000 black homesteads. So William Tecumseh Sherman, William Tecumtown Sherman, moreover, had issued Field Order Number 15 back in January, arranging for the parceling out of 485,000 acres to free people in South Carolina Sea Islands, where, according to the order, said no white person whatsoever will be permitted to reside. This is for free blacks and only free blacks. But in October 1865, not even a few months later, President Johnson revoked Sherman's order and commanded the head of the Freedmen's Bureau to denationalize the government's lands, returning it to the rebel planters Johnson himself had recently pardoned. He's like, oh yeah, all you people that just wanted to keep your slaves, no, you can keep your land. We just won't let you keep the slaves.
You just
have scumbag.
You have to do a loyalty oath back to the government.
Bend the knee.
They pardoned all the Confederates. They pardoned Jefferson goddamn Davis. The fucking leader of the Confederacy was pardoned.
It's like an Operation Paperclip for the Civil War.
Yeah, it really was. And what ends up happening, Lincoln gets killed, right? And then the South gets punished. But when I say the South gets punished, it's not the planter class that gets punished. It's the poor South. That's who always gets punished when the government punishes someone. It's always poor people, right? Because Johnson was so mad that the goddamn Southerners killed Lincoln, right? They killed the hunt for John Wilkes Booth involves a bunch of just people getting killed because they happen to be near John Wilkes Booth. Because people really liked Abraham Lincoln at that point. But you know what? All your heroes suck because Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus.
Anyways, that quote, I want to attribute it comes out of a Jacobin article about Juneteenth that came out this month.
Yeah, and they took the island back, right? They gave it back, but after the free people had made improvements and shit.
Yeah,
and it was a big
infrastructure's there.
The infrastructure, they took it and then they'd rent it back to them.
What I've found though from the Freedmen's Bureau did a lot of good as far as like securing the right to vote, which we don't think it's an up and down from like the 1860s all the way through to the 1950s. There are times when it's more available for people of color to vote, and then there are times when it's like literally deadly for them to vote, and it's not a one time it's bad, or it is a one time it's bad, but it fluctuates over time. And so a town here in Orlando called Ocoee
has Ocoee Founders Day, right? Which happens to coincide with the Ocoee massacre.
Oh,
so Ocoee was a prosperous black town here, and they voted, and Judge Cheney and shit, they went and killed the people that voted, and Ocoee Founders Day happens on the anniversary of it recently. and it's just that's still happening, y'all.
Yeah.
That's Ocoee wiped out. Every black person in Ocoee got wiped out. And they didn't start moving back until the 80s.
I wanted to show an image real quick for you guys. So most people, when they think of the South, they think of like, basically slaves in rags when it comes to like what did freed black people looked like in the South. Like they weren't dressed up nice. This is a picture of a freedman voting in New Orleans. It's a portrait of freedman voting in New Orleans from the New York Public Library. So I'm gonna share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so this is a group of freedmen in New Orleans voting. I mean, you can see they're just as like dressed as the time as like any white group of people. Like it's not like even though they were a separate class altogether, there was like a time when like there was a shared culture. It was a white culture, unfortunately, but there was a shared culture that people were allowed to exist in. And it's just the vacillation of those times when it's worse for people of color, when it's better than people of color, ended up just being worse for the most part.
It's not like there weren't black blacksmiths. It's not like there weren't black people. You know, there were prosperous black people because of the skills they had. Now, I mean, shit, a lot of the crops we have here, like the whites get credit for remember that newspaper guy talking about the knowledge of the crops and shit? Black people are why a lot of these crops worked here, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like literally their knowledge.
West Africa, the rice and shit is why they would literally go kidnap them from that region because of how well they knew how to grow rice. Like that was the point of it. And that's why we have rice that grows in the United States. And you have all this wealth that just gets erased shortly after all this black people make when the Reconstruction deal falls apart in like 1885 or something. But keep going, brother. You want to try? Well, so basically that's most of what I've got. I mean, we had like recent, like during the George Floyd protests, there were callings for Juneteenth to be made a federal holiday. And actually, as of this weekend, Joe Biden signed into effect that it's a federal holiday. But because it was signed in, people make all these excuses why they can't have. So there's some federal agencies that took note of it and some people that didn't. So the Postal Service remained open, but that's because they said they didn't have enough time to plan.
Well, I don't think they really did because they announced it on Friday.
Yeah.
I noticed all.
Or they announced it on Thursday and it took it Friday and it was like.
But I mean, go ahead.
It's appeasement, y'all.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's literally nothing. It's a fucking gift to the white collar class in this country. Those are the people that have federal holidays off, y'all. You know, if you work a service job, you don't have federal holidays off. You're probably going to be busier. You're serving them. So literally what they did was said, hey, look, we're going to acknowledge that y'all weren't free. But it's also Juneteenth is when they were told that they went from being chattel slaves to wage slaves.
Yes.
You know, the federal government just made the day that black people were told, hey, you were chattel slaves and we're not going to do anything to make up for that. Now you're a wage slave. Welcome to the fucking cog, baby.
And no true comparison, but I mean, it's the idea now we've become from low skill workers to essential workers for certain parts of the economy. It's like nothing has fundamentally changed. Prophecy, it has come true. But, you know, like they love this like this performative aspect of it. And I think the elites will always use those performative aspects, those words, those titles, everything, just to wipe the slate clean for themselves when everything else remains the same.
Well, if you don't have any time to know this shit, right? You don't have time to research the shit. And you go, you're not paying attention here. Oh, it's a holiday now or wherever. Obama was elected. Racism's over, y'all. Yeah. Back to brunch. You know, Joe Biden's back. Them kids, the kids aren't in cages anymore. They're in secured facilities.
Yeah.
Well, do you want me to play this TikTok, Sean?
Oh, sure.
Play it up. Come on.
I was this earlier.
Hold on. Let me make it a different screen so you guys can't see all the cannabis shit I was looking up.
Bring me some cannabis, Brittany.
Bring it to a state where it's legal, baby. What's up? Oh God. And when they did the fucking Jesus.
Y'all see
there might not be. Yeah, just
wait, is there no audio? Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if there was.
What was it like in Shreveport? Because I was never even aware this was a holiday when I lived there. Like, is there like I always thought that if it's Shreveport, there's got to be major like parade at least.
I don't remember anything happening then, but that was a weird time for me. So I don't know, but I don't recall anything going on there.
And then nothing where y'all
Mardi Gras.
I only knew it was a thing because I knew some Texas black people, weirdly enough.
Yeah, I mean, I never really heard of this until like 4 or 5 years ago.
I may have heard of it. Like I swear, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Like I knew of the. I knew of the General Order Number 3 because I'm a Civil War nerd when I was a fucking kid about shit like that. But I didn't realize. That was just, I knew about that kind. I didn't know I knew when Texas took over by federal troops and how different shit was.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm one of those white people. I just heard about this last
like
year.
a week ago.
No, it was the George Floyd thing.
Okay, all right, it makes sense. But you know,
I knew about Freaknik before I knew about Juneteenth, and that makes me feel bad.
Me too. But I mean, Freaknik though. I mean, I'm close to Atlanta, and I mean, I know some freaky. Most of the black people I know are pretty freaky. To be honest with you, at least the ones I still talk to and shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all I've got as far as like. I mean, we can look at like the George Floyd protest brought all this to light, and like you said, it's an appeasement, but it's something. The way I see it,
it's better than nothing. But sometimes the problem is, but I don't. You know, I say that I don't know if it's better than nothing, to be honest with you, because a lot of times it takes a bunch of people that would help otherwise and tells them they can go back to goddamn brunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
or you can have the day off to go to brunch.
Yeah, have the day off to go to brunch and make sure black people serve you. You know,
it's all it all feels the same as like what's going on right now with trying to get like trying to up minimum wage and everything. It's always like, I hate to even say it's baby steps. It's like a toe inch forward.
It's the bare minimum to stop people from getting, you know, rich people getting their heart eaten on fucking TV and shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it feels like it feels like they're not getting it. Like, I would not be surprised if there's not a Slack channel already called the Executive Committee for Public Safety somewhere.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, if you look at
probably something else. It's probably, there's a QAnon one for sure, but
yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at that, I don't know if y'all have seen it running around that like extremism, the thing, like it's like one of the slides, and it's like it includes eco-extremism next to like white nationalism, and then it includes anarchism right next to sovereign citizens, and it's just like
grievances against racial structures.
Yes,
perceived grievances against racial structures.
Perceived grievance, opposition to capitalism, as though opposition to capitalism is just like on its face evil. Like, you can't oppose this system. I mean, this is perfect. It's how you live.
We already had the end of history, so.
Hasn't Tucker Carlson made some anti-capitalist comments as of late? I don't really know.
Tucker Carlson?
I just heard that.
He does that shit occasionally, yeah.
He loves socialism. He just wants it with nationalistic tendencies, y'all.
Yeah.
He wants that Strasserism that everybody talks about, but it's actually like for nerds online.
Yeah. Well, he wants
Red
strong socialism for the American working class.
Was that Stalin?
No, friend, that's Nazis. That's National
Socialism.
That's Nazis.
Okay, so it's kind of worse, right? Because Stalin fought the Nazis.
Yeah, Stalin kind of killed the Nazis.
So this will be the end because Sean was in Paris and shit. We got to wrap up, but TikTok took down a comment on that Eddie Smith guy, the wrestler, the communist wrestler guy. I said, you know, Stalin was an asshole, but every American president's a war criminal, and TikTok said it violated the terms of speech. And here's the thing, y'all. Stalin was an asshole. He didn't necessarily have to be I'm not telling you got to believe that he was a mass murderer or whatever, but the dude was generally unpleasant to be around. We know that for a fact, all right? Like, if you invited Stalin to the barbecue, he ain't going to be that much fucking fun, all right?
Gonna be walking on eggshells.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be, you know, all right, tankies, okay? You can call Stalin an asshole, all right? Like, anybody that's the dictator of a country for so long is definitively a fucking asshole.
Doesn't mean they're all bad.
You just don't stay in. Fidel's an asshole. All of them are assholes, man. It don't matter.
Hey, man, so long, dictators' lives matter too. DLM.
Yeah. I can't call Stalin an asshole.
But I mean, really what it is about recognizing, to me, like, we're like, every leader is going to be flawed. There's never going to be a leader that is going to lead us to a perfect society. But if that leader does enough good for enough people, I'm fine with them. They can be an asshole. Just do enough good. That's all you got to do. Just enough. And like more than 60%.
I really didn't think calling Stalin an asshole was a controversial fucking thought, even among communists.
You're online. That's why.
It's on the Chinese Communist Party's platform of TikTok. So
true, good point. I forgot. I didn't think they fucking did Stalin shit. I thought they pushed back on Stalin. I thought Mao pushed back on Stalin after he died.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, so that's why I thought it'd be okay. I thought it'd be okay to shit on Stalin. I didn't say nothing about Mao.
Hey man,
that
all
was my
the more
point.
reason to quit TikTok and become a streamer.
I don't know why.
Because Brittany wants to play video games all day long. Why me? Why does he do this to me every fucking time?
It's grandmotherly kindness, Brittany. He's cruel to be kind.
I hate that guy. Why am I friends with that guy?
A PFT Media production.